Hey guys, Ryan Moody here, helping you to fish smarter, not harder. In this blog post, it's one for those who are getting into jigging or for the guys that are into jigging already. If you've probably noticed by now, or if you haven't, you probably will, the cords that come with the assist hooks on your jigs, they quite often only last a few fish and then that's it. They wear very easy. It doesn't matter, they all eventually do it. So then you're just left over with two really good jig hooks that, what do you do with them? You throw them away, do you? No, what I like to do is make my own assist hooks. So I'll show you how I go about it. Things you'll need is a little bit of 60 to 80 pound single strand stainless wire, bent right over sharp, so it's kinked right over very sharp. This is your needle for splicing the Dacron. You'll also need a length of around about a foot long or a bit more, of 130 pound Dacron for bigger jigs. Smaller jigs you can go down to 80, but you'll probably have to make a slightly smaller tool, probably around about 40 to 50 pound wire for that. Just a pair of scissors for trimming everything, a marker for marking along here where we have to come in and out with our splicers, a little bit of heat shrink as well, that's for around the hooks a bit later on, we'll show you that, and a little bit of flasher material, which you can, it's up to you whether you include that or not. You can just chuck that underneath the heat shrink before you shrink it down, and that'll hold it in place as well. So that's entirely up to you though. We'll also show you, sometimes we add a nice little plastic squid just to one hook, just to create a little bit more bling and attraction for the fish. First up guys, we've got the GoPro happening here now, so it's going to give you a better perspective of what I'm actually doing here. But first up, I'm going to cut the existing hooks off this old jig because it's going to let me down on the next fish. You can see the frays there. So I'm going to use these hooks again instead of throwing them out. So I'm going to take them off now. And I've got to trim off all of the existing hardware. This can be a little bit annoying to get off sometimes, but just take your time. Good little sharp knife and a pair of scissors usually gets rid of the old twine. So I've got two good jig hooks there now, ready for me to start splicing up the tether line. Now I've grabbed my split ring pliers and I'm just going to take off the solid ring that the tether line attaches to, because we're going to reattach to the same one. We might as well use it again as well. Okay, first up now, I am going to start my first loop, and these loops actually get wrapped around the shank twice when we pull it up tight at the end, and we'll show you that. But firstly, I start off by splicing Dacron. We've got another blog on this, shows you how I use it for lanyards, for sunnies, and all different sorts of bits and pieces. But what I like to do is, I'll start my insertion around about 50, 60 millimeters back from the end. And I'm just going to go in there with the splicing tool. We just look for a thread, push it in, bunch up the Dacron so it becomes loose, and then we slide that up around about an inch or so. There we go. And then I'm going to come back out again. So I've got around about 50 millimeters of tag hanging out here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to brush the end of that tag up, make it just a little tiny bit fluffy. Then I'm going to put it in the middle. Okay, I'm opening up the wire. It's a little bit hard sometimes, especially if you haven't got fingernails. There we go. Now I'm just going to slide up the tag in between the wire and push it up to the very top. So it's just in there by a few millimeters where that fluffy bit is. Now I'm going to pull this back through the center, make sure this is all bunched up down here where the main part of the line is that we're going to pull through. So now we just push from the bottom here so that there's no pressure on this area, it just bunches up and that helps it slide through. So I'm just going to pull that through there now. Sometimes it can take a little bit of wriggling. There we go. Right. Got it through there now. So that's what we've basically got. We've got a loop on the end and we've got our tag hanging out here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull that back a little bit, make that loop a bit bigger. Don't pull that tag right through just yet though, leave that out at the end there. And now I'm going to go through the eye of this hook, this jig hook. And with this loop, I'm going to go over the top of the tip once, So I'm going to wrap it around and twice, like so. So that when we pull it up tight, there's a shank holding around the hook, a shank of line around it, and another two pulled up in there, the top of it, where the loop is. So I want to shorten my loop up a little bit, so what I can do now is just pull that through a little bit like so, and adjust this line down here so that it comes through. Just loosen it up a bit more and pull it from the top here, and that should all come up a little bit tighter then, so you don't have much of a loop showing right down the bottom. So there we are, that's all good now. So now, where this comes out, I can actually just push it back the other way a little bit. I can snip it off, and now just pull back on this, and you'll see that tag disappear inside the Dacron, like so. There we have it. So now that line is encased up to about here. You can see the thicker area, and that is actually helping hold this Dacron in place, as well as these knots around the hook. We're also going to add some heat shrink to that shortly. We'll show you that soon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure an existing jig. So from the eye of the hook to the eye of the hook on this one is 60 millimeters with the line spread out. So I want to allow another 10 millimeters for the knot, the hitches up there, and another 10 millimeters on each end for the loops. So that's 60. So I'm going to allow about 90 millimeters from the eye of this hook up to where I'm going to make the hole exit for my next splice. So I'm just going to hold that there now, 90 millimeters. I'm just going to mark it, permanent marker, so I know exactly where that is. Okay. So next, I do the same thing again. I can shorten this tag up a little bit now so it's a bit easier to work with. I'm going to go back in and come out there. That's where our loop's going to be for the next hook. So I'm going to come up here about an inch, insert the needle into the Dacron again, into the center, push it up to roughly where this mark is, and exit it through the side wall once again. So there we go, we have the needle through the Dacron out to where the loop is for the hook. Now, same thing again, there we go. Just brush the end up a little bit on the end. Slide that up in here, right up to the very top. And we're going to pull him back through the center of the Dacron once again. Ooh, that was close, nearly lost it. So now, once again, he's off the needle. There he is, through the center. Here's the tag out this end. So we're going to pull it out a little bit, like so. And now thread on the other hook. Okay, now, made the second loop. I'm going to go through the eye of the second hook. Now, same thing, when I pull it through, we're going to go over the tip of the hook, wrap it around, and go through once again, like so. Pull that around to the shank, hold that there, see where the two lines have gone through, where I've marked it with the black permanent marker. That's where the hole comes out. So I'm going to hold it there and try and pull through on this tag here so that it brings it up tight like so. There we go. So we don't have a really big loop sitting down here now. We've pulled up the loop. Right, the tag's internal, so all we need to do is trim it off. So I'm just going to pull it back a tad, around about there. Cut it off so that it lays inside the Dacron. Pull this Dacron back out again, so it's firm. And there we go, it's encased inside. So that there is now the basis for our assist hooks rig. Now what we do next is we get our bits of heat shrink, cut them around about 1 centimetre in size, like so. Okay, what we're going to do now is thread that around the shank of the hook, and we're going to bring it up right up to the very top of the eyelet itself, around about there. Now we can use the heat gun now to encase that, Or if you want to use some flasher material, you can actually poke it up the heat shrink before you do this process. Let's just push that up the back of the heat shrink like so, all the way in. Okay, that's roughly it there. Okay, now we're just over the eye of the hook, just at the top. So I'm just going to hold that in one place there now and use the heat gun. Do not use an open flame because you don't want to go burning your Dacron. You're better off using boiling water or a heat gun. So I'm just going to use the heat gun now. Close up the heat shrink. There we go, you don't want it on there too long. And there you have it. It's pulled up nice and tight. It's now holding that flashing material. You can do that with the second hook as well if you want, or you can just leave it with one hook. So just trim off any dags of your flasher material. You can make it as bushy or as small as you like. It's just that little bit more of an attractant. Okay, next step is to double the line over, around about the middle. Up the top here, grab the existing solid ring, solid stainless ring that these lanyards go through. Okay, push that through like so, and then we get one hook at a time. This one goes through there like so, and we pull that through, and then this one goes through as well, through the same hole, and push it around the shank. So it can get a bit tight sometimes, but now we're just going to bring that up nice and tight. And simply put that ring back on to the split ring at the top of the lure, and we're back in business. Got yourself your own set of assist hooks. So then just put your second one on and just repeat the process. I'll just quickly do this one without the flashing rig. Choosing the right size heat shrink is very important, of course. And basically what that does is that holds all that knot in tight. So that's all held, the strength of this is not just held by the other Dacron running up the center of the outer one, it's also wrapped around the hook once, and the heat shrink is holding all that knot tight. So none of that can come undone. So now we just open up the split ring, the top of the lure. Get him on. Put the solid ring back on, and then we have it. Back in business. Some people like to use the plastic squids, push him on, over the assist hook, keep twisting it to get over the heat shrink, all the way up, and then push it back down onto the eye of the hook, so the eye of the hook is up in the head there. There we have it, and we can just trim off a little bit of that bling down the bottom there. So we can trim off a little bit of that, so there's not so much drag or resistance as the jig is trying to fall again. So there we have it. So you can use plastic squids for a bit of bling, or any kind of flashing material as well. So guys, if you're out jigging, don't be too dismayed if you're going through a lot of assist rigs and you're getting left with a lot of hooks behind. You can make these yourself. So follow my lead, give this a try. Before you know it, you'll be knocking these out in no time. So guys, if you enjoyed this little tip and you'd like to see more, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and if you only want some special tips I send out by email only, head on over to our website, www.ryanmoodyfishing.com, and sign up for free email updates. Get in the great outdoors, keep fishing smarter. We'll see you next time.